William Roman is the general manager of Rosewood Estates Winery and Meadery, and he joins us now from Burlington, Ontario. So you produce honey, wine, and mead. And let's talk about your honey business first. How have you benefited from this push to buy Canadian?
So generally speaking, honey has always been a strong contender for go local or the support of Canadian products because people like to consume their local honey. But generally in the last month when things have kind of escalated with the tariff war, the threats of tariff, there's definitely been more people and smaller other businesses that say, hey, I want to have your honey or local products in store. And so there's a more willingness to it. And they're seeing consumers buy those products a little bit more with confidence, I would say, and that they're then repeating their orders more swiftly. So overall, it's just a very good thing to see.
What about wine sales?
Wine sales are a little bit different and tricky. Wine is a great product and a great local provider back to the GDP, and that's a whole other conversation we could have at another time. But I would say that confidently there has been a small increase in sales of local wine to local people, but this is generally coming from people who were already supporters of Ontario wine, to be honest. If someone is a big Napa Valley cab drinker and they can no longer get it, chances are if they are not a fan of Ontario wine, they're not going to turn to it. I really don't like saying that, but that's the honest truth after almost 20 years of doing this and seeing that in reality. They're just going to turn to other international wines, unfortunately, that are still available on LCBO. So if people are really behind this pro-Canada, let's support Canadian GDP and go back to our economy, they need to really try to say, hey, let's actually support our local farmers and the supply chains that they support as well.
So there's consumer preference, that's one issue, but then the other big thing is these barriers between provinces, especially when it comes to liquor. And you have a great example that you've dealt with. There's a bar, from what I understand, in Nova Scotia that would like to buy some of your wine. But tell us about the obstacles you and that bar face.
Yeah, so the interprovincial trade with wine specifically, and I'll talk to just wine, not spirits and beer, but just wine very focused, is that you have to deal with the boards. So those are the LCBOs of the other provinces, for those who might not be familiar with it, but typically every province has one except for a few out west. And basically for us to get this product or our product into the restaurant's hand, they have to provide a private order request to the board, and then the board sends us a PO saying, hey, we want this product. But to make that happen, we have to discount our product substantially. So by less than half of what we would sell that product locally here in Ontario. We then would sell that to the board. They then take it and mark it up by about 2 or 3 times, and then that restaurant is able to buy it from them. None of this makes sense because then the restaurant's paying higher in taxes. I'm paying high taxes still on that discounted product. And the whole chain doesn't make any sense. The only people who are benefiting is the actual government board, to be honest. And it's unfortunate that that's the reality, and it doesn't make sense to me because in other countries, notably like France, Italy, and Spain, that doesn't exist. You never look at France and say someone from Bordeaux who wants to sell a product to Burgundy, that a Burgundy restaurant isn't going to pay a different tax level for it because it's coming from Bordeaux. That's a whole other cultural thing about Bordeaux eating Burgundy or drinking Burgundy, but that's a separate thing entirely.
Yeah, so if by chance somebody from the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission or whatever the name of the body is happens to be watching, and given the fact that bar in Halifax would like whatever it is, few boxes of your wine, tell us what needs to change.
Basically, the governments of the provinces and or with support of the federal government, but the federal government's already passed this on to the provinces. So it's really the premiers that have to agree to saying, okay, let's open the borders and allow that interprovincial trade. Because once that happens, then we can just ship it to them directly. And I'd invoice that restaurant and they'd pay the invoice. I pay my taxes on the product as well, so my alcohol tax, and they'd pay their taxes locally. So everyone's paying taxes still. I just ship it directly to them instead of having to go through this board process. Not only does it make the actual transaction faster and better, it then gets product in hand quicker. So then their guests get to enjoy our products faster and better. So it just speeds things up and it makes things better for everyone in complete transparency. And I don't see very much reason why we shouldn't be doing this when you start to look at the outside picture of these threats of tariffs and the fact that we if we want to strengthen our GDP and our economy, we should be trying to do that. And this is a very seemingly simple tactic that we could do that.
Terrific getting your perspective on this, William. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.